My name is Wes Chapman. We're in San Juan County. The city is Farmington, New Mexico. Basically what happened was came home from a date, said my goodbyes, noticed something in the neighbor's yard where it's I want to say 4 to pushing 5 foot tall fence, maybe 5. A dog-looking creature. So it was on a street, regular paved street, neighborhood, probably, let's say maybe 30 feet from me, where I was at. I was getting dropped off. It's in the middle of town. The creature that I saw, first thing popped in my head was a big dog. And then as the event continued, I started noticing hands and that it was more humanoid than bipedal. Anubis. That's what I could think of as Anubis. Because it had like the head was so similar to like a Great Dane, but not boxy. It was kind of pointed. Like the fur wasn't like necessarily like a furry dog, you know, it was like a bunch of hairs on it. It wasn't like, you know, like I'm an Egyptian god looking thing, like it had, you know, it was beefy. Werewolves in London comes to mind, where you have like the musculature like on the fingers coming out, and you slowly have like these like talon-like nails, a little bit more pronounced than like a dog. Like, you know, like you have a bodybuilder and you have like the short squatty neck, but then you have someone that's like tall and lanky and their neck's really long, like kind of abnormally long. It's kind of what it looked like. The eyes, they were very, like, you know, like a predator, you're gonna see like a greenish hue whenever like you shine the light, but you see the reflection from the light in the back, from the street light shining down through the tree, and you see it on its eye. It was like a silverish colored, like a flicker almost. Like it's real hard for me to describe. Other than that, like it's very, like it's there. In fear, taking off back to my house, watching in terror out the window, trying to see if I can find it, loading a gun just to be on the safe side. Which at the time, thinking back, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, it might have resulted in something following me from hanging out with one of my friends, because he always had some weird encounters of crazy crap. So this is me learning more about the area and looking back. This area is riddled with all kinds of stuff. There's stories of all kinds of different portals, things coming out of dimension stuff, ghost stuff that I don't mess with. If you can't put a bullet in it, I don't want to mess with it. My buddy has been haunted by something for a very long time. We've gone camping with him, and this is the only time I ever went camping with him. It was just an overnight towards Albuquerque way. The similar instances that I had from hanging out with him and then what happened to me make me believe that something was following him, picked another target, and then, because if it were a animal, like a real animal, and it was wanting to hunt the prey, it don't matter. Like you take a bear. Bear is a carnivore, they're also cannibalistic. They're gonna come through a window. So whether it was my grandparents' belief in their religion, or, you know, something keeping that from coming across, I couldn't tell you. So the creature that I had seen in Farmington, New Mexico, did seem flesh and blood to me at that point in time in life. Being there, seeing it from about 20 feet away to where I was at, it seemed like a living, breathing creature of some sort. It looked very similar to a Dogman, a werewolf, skinwalker, whatever type of culture you want to call it, that it felt real to me. It was gonna eat me. I wouldn't go outside at night very often, and then like I met a man named J.C. Johnson, and like he kind of gave me more courage to go explore this stuff. Like, you know, once you see something, you're like, I want, like, it's like a wreck on the side of the road. No matter how much you don't want to look, you're gonna want to look right at it. So you go on venturing more and more and more. It'll take you hours and miles away from where you normally live just to get more information or have a similar experience, so you can know I'm not crazy. Like, this is real. There's things more than I am that, you know, you don't have to keep looking. It's right here. You just gotta open your eyes, open your ears, and look.
My name is LaVon Sherman. We're at the El Rancho Motel in Gallup, New Mexico. I don't know a lot about McGaffey. I just, you know, it's not on the reservation. It's in the Zuni Mountains, and there is a lake up there not too far up, and then people just go fishing up there, and then we moved up there 5 years ago, and I never heard of anything like it up there up until when I started telling my story to just coworkers, and they knew about it. And I was so surprised, because I was like, wait a minute, you know it's been up there? And they said tons of people have seen it. Same exact thing. Probably going back a couple years, it was in October. I got off work around 10 p.m. at night, and there's an area up there called Quaking Aspen, and it's after you go over some cattle guard. I just went over that cattle guard. I was probably going about 40, and out of the corner of my eye, on the left side, I saw something, but we do have elk up there, so I've seen them hundreds of times up there, and they're huge. But when I looked, this was over 7 feet tall, and it was standing upright. It wasn't moving, it was just standing there, and what I thought was just an elk, because I've passed him so many times. But right when it came right to where I went by it, it's when it stood up.
Was it looking at you?
Yeah, it looked, its head was turned, and all I saw was just antlers. But then when it stood up, my heart just, that was it. I just was so scared. I was probably never been that scared in my life, because I've heard of things out here, you know, I've lived out here all my life in New Mexico, but I've never seen something like that. And for something to keep up with me, and it must have ran about 4 miles, it kept up with me, never stopped, never got tired. And I was going 70 at some points, and it just kept up with me. I don't know what they would call something like that, but around here, there's no name. At least the Navajos they call it something, but it's in Navajo, and I don't know how to say it. But they said that it's just something up there, like kind of like a skinwalker. That's what a lot of them have said. That's a skinwalker. It changes shapes, and it's up there for a reason. It doesn't live up there. They said sometimes they send stuff like that. We're Sioux. We're from South Dakota. So to us, we just smoked ourselves off. We put cedar down, and it kind of it's left us alone ever since. But The Navajos are known to do things if they don't like you, they can send things after you. So we always think of that aspect of it, that maybe it was personally after me, but we'll never know. So, and as I got just so frightened and scared, and I started speeding up. I clocked at 55, 60, and it was keeping up with me. And then I would hit 70, and it's windy through there, and by the time I got closer to where I would turn off, I was at least 75, but that, whatever it was, it would sometimes run like a human and then like an animal. So it would go down on fours and then pick itself back up. And it did have antlers. They did look like an elk, but it had dark brown fur, dark, almost black fur. And I never got to look at its eyes or anything. I just always saw the side view of it just because it was running beside me. And then as I turned in to 191, it's a dirt road and then another dirt road. And I didn't see it anymore, so I lost it up there. But then when I pulled in, my mom happened to be outside with our dogs, and I screamed at her to get in the house, something's out there. And she was getting the dogs in, and as they started to go in, they went crazy. And they started barking, and they were barking at where I came in at. And then we just were real scared the rest of the night. And then about 8 months after that incident, me and my daughter were outside. Our dogs just kept barking and barking. And we knew the coyotes were out there, we could hear them. But so we went out, and it was probably about 10 o'clock at night again. And probably by where our gate is, there's a real tall tree out there. And we saw something looking back at us, and we thought, just maybe even a cat, because it was kind of low. But then all of a sudden, you could see it stand up, and it stood over 7 feet tall. That you could just literally watch it raise up, and you could see it look like a human again. It had regular legs and fur, and we just got so scared again, and we ran back in. We locked the doors. The whole night, our dogs wouldn't stop. They were just barking the whole night up into the morning, and then we did go out and we looked, because it did rain that earlier in the day, and there were prints. There were prints around our trailer. Okay, and then the footprints that we saw were easily at least this big, and it looked like it was human foot. And then just ever since then, throughout the years, we've seen the same kind of prints around the house. Our dogs would go crazy at night. And then I started asking around, and people started telling us that they've seen the same thing for years up there in McGaffey.
How long has that been going on?
I think about at least 20-something years, because I have had a coworker that had the same incident. We've had people down at in Fort Wingate. It's a closed school, and they've seen it down there too.
Right, I'm Victoria Anderson, and the encounter happened in my backyard in New Mexico. Yeah, there's definitely shapeshifter legends throughout the state, but notoriously north of us. However, there are rumors that those are kind of common in New Mexico. And specifically to my area, I haven't heard anything, but I have heard both long distance within the state and short distance legends. It has that. Well, it was nighttime. It was probably around 11:30, and we were going to let our dogs out for their one last time for the night. It was normally a little bit later than I preferred to do it, but for some reason they seemed anxious. So we decided to let them out, thinking they had to do their business before we pretty much close up the house for the evening and everybody goes to bed. So I let them out, and within probably a few minutes, there was a fight going on with one of my dogs. And the two other dogs ran into the house, just horribly frightened. I went back to see what was going on with the third dog, and looked like either some wolf or some coyote thing. I don't know what it was. It was big. It wasn't quite coyote. It wasn't quite a wolf. It was very big, and it had the third dog in its mouth, ready to leap over the fence with him. So here was this extra big whatever. Like it says, it kind of looked like a wolf, but it was brown, and it was big, and it had my dog, and he wasn't a small dog. That's what was disturbing. It was a pretty good sized dog. Had it in its mouth, trying to leap over the fence with him. So I ran out trying to scare it, and then it charged after me. So at this point, I realized not only the dog's in trouble, so am I. I tried charging after me. I mean, I'm not exactly a big person, but it clearly wasn't afraid of me, and it made me feel like it was going to come after me and attack me. And I tried to get my husband's attention. I wasn't waiting for him to come from the other side of the house, so I grabbed a bat. And by this time, it was pretty close to the door, and when it saw the bat, it finally dropped the dog, and with one single leap, leaped over a 6-foot fence into my neighbor's backyard, and I never saw it again. There's a neighbor of mine who did work wildlife, and he kind of alluded that being in the wilderness, there could be things not, wanting to be talked about. New Mexico does have a very high missing persons rate. I don't know specifically about Rio Rancho, but New Mexico in general does have a very high missing persons rate. There was like I said, a different, besides the size, and I couldn't quite identify what specific animal, it did have a translucent kind of feel for it. And I wasn't sure if that was just the lighting, but I would really, if you want to know the truth, I think there was more to it, and it didn't have a full solid form. After the incident, the dog was pretty traumatized, so I didn't really investigate. I inspected to see, what kind of damage, what was done. I mean, there was puncture wounds in it, so I would think at some point it was physical, but it did have a weird kind of exterior. It's like it was fur, but it was like a gray or brown, but it did have, at least when the light was shining on it, a weird translucentness. It did. It have a little, again, a little flicker. I mean, I couldn't tell you what color the eyes are, but I just knew it was very aggressive, and it didn't seem like it wanted to stop with the dog, even with my presence. Who's really to say? In that land, actually, the Rio Rancho area has only been developed in the last maybe 30, 40 years tops, so who knows what could be there. Yeah, poor Jojo. Yeah, we we did have to go with him at night. He was traumatized. So were the other 2 dogs. So, it took probably about a year for them to kind of feel a little more comfortable. I mean, they no longer went to the outer edges of the property to do their business. They kept it close to home. Well, it did have, I mean, other than having some wild thing with your dog, I mean, that's pretty, but I think there's an element of extra adrenaline went through because I didn't know what I was dealing with. I mean, like it says, when you can't identify what it is. It's like, is it a coyote? It's too big to be a coyote. It wasn't even fitting a wolf. I mean, it had like scraggly coyote fur, but I knew it wasn't a coyote. It didn't really look like a wolf because it was, the structure of it was different. I mean, just that unknowing of what exactly are you dealing with. You have microseconds to try to process and then react. I mean, my fear was he was going to take JoJo. He was going to take JoJo and nobody was going to stop it.
My name is George Harvey. I'm from here in Farmington, New Mexico. And we've had like Dogman encounters. They've been happening all up and down the reservation along the San Juan River, mainly on the reservation side where most of the stuff happens. And there's an account my cousin had not too long ago, last year, that him and my little nephew were walking along a ditch road, and it was in the nighttime, just getting night, and they were looking up in the bushes. They said it looked like a sheep at first, like the wool on a sheep. And as they got closer, my cousin, he had noticed it starting like to stand like upright on two legs bipedal. And he started kind of like getting scared. And my nephew, he's the one that he got so scared he froze and he couldn't walk or nothing. He was like froze in place. And whatever it was, it stood up all the way. And my cousin remembers the chest and the arms. He said the arms were pretty long. They had fingers, but it had claws on it. And it had like a lion, where it had like a mane, but it had dog ears. It was like, he was saying it was white, but it was more of a, I guess you could say like a grayish color, how you would, like a timber wolf almost, like a dark grayish color. And it started running away from them. And my cousin, he's like, it started like getting toward the road where they were at, and that was the direction they were going. And my nephew, he was still frozen in place. My cousin had to shake him out of it, you know. He was like still in shock, and they ran the other way, back toward where they were coming from. And they went and jumped into the irrigation ditch to hide. Well, they heard that thing start running on the road. I guess it was looking for them. And you hear it running by, like, and these things that you hear, like, sniffing, like trying to smell for them or something. And then it said it ran by a couple of times. You can hear it. And a vehicle happened to come by, and whatever, it ran away from the vehicle because the headlights. After that vehicle passed, my nephew and my cousin jumped out of the ditch road, or jumped out of the irrigation ditch, and they started running back toward his house. They got back to his house, and that evening, my cousin said the dogs all in that whole area, that neighborhood area, they were whining and whimpering most of the night. And you heard scratching on his trailer below his window, like his the aluminum siding. You can hear nails like lightly scratching on the where he was at. I guess that followed him. I'm not sure, but it knew where he was at, and it knew exactly which room he was in because it was scratching on the window. There's other accounts that happen on the reservation with a lot of the other people. Most people don't come out and talk about it. It's taboo. Most people consider the Dogman more like how they say in our culture, the Navajo skinwalker, and that's a whole different thing. That's like witchcraft. That's scary. Running into those. My dad, being a medicine man, as I was growing up in my younger years, they used to come around his house at night. He lived in a hogan, and at night, in the summertime, it'd be real hot, so the top of the hogan, where the stovepipe was, we'd usually leave it open, and we'd put like a screen and hold it down with bricks and stuff. And they would, at night, sometimes I would go spend the weekend with my dad. And he lived real close to a bluff, and his hogan just right below it. You'd hear like bone whistles, like they use eel bones and whistle to make a whistle, and you'd hear that at night coming from the bluffs. You would that's when you would know those skinwalkers would come down. In our language, we call it Yinadloshi, and it's when they're around you, you get this like fear. You can like sense it. It does something to you. It paralyzes you if you see them, and they use what we call corpse dust. They would dig up graves and take the basket, the circles of the human fingers, because that's a little life circle. They have one on the back of your head, and the bottom of your feet and your toes. And well, the skinwalkers would take those and they'd dry it and make powder, and that they use their magic. That's what they would throw on you, and it go like in the wind or whatever, and that's what paralyzes people. It knocks them out. Like they'll like almost go into seizures, and there's real scary stuff when that happens. And so when I was at my dad's house, they would, like I said, you'd hear those whistles at night, and just that sense of fear, it'd come over us at night, and my dad just be like, "Oh, leave it alone, just go to sleep. They're not gonna come inside the house." And well, one night they did come into the house. I was sleeping on the floor, and I kept hearing like someone walking around outside his hogan, like the footsteps on the dirt, and it sounded like a dog trying to, I guess, like hop up on the window, look in the window, and you hear scratching. All of a sudden, I heard a thud on the roof, and you can actually hear someone walking on top of the roof. And I was looking up at the chimney hole, and Oh, I closed my eyes. I knew it was up there, and I didn't want to look up there because I knew something was going to look right back at me. And sure enough, I looked up and I saw a head peek over, and that had dog ears on it too, and it like freaked me out. And I was trying to yell for my dad to wake up, but I couldn't speak. Like my words would come out like mumble. And I was trying to yell. I was laying there, and one thing I could do was just close my eyes, and like my hands started shaking my body, and whatever it was, it dropped into the house and was walking. And my dad, he woke up then. I just heard him cussing around, and I heard the door open up, and it opened up and it closed. And then that's when I could move. And my dad was telling me that it kind of it was trying to do something to the family, and that's why it came inside the house. But luckily I was awake, and it warned it enough to kind of leave us alone. But when my dad woke up, it ran out and chased it out. And he showed me that in his hand, I guess when he was struggling with it, he grabbed a piece of his hair, and he had long hair in his hand still. He had to take it off, and he went and put it in the fire. But when that was talk about these skin markers and stuff, it has a deep effect on people, on us. You know, it's scary. It stays with you forever. And just memories and stuff like that, sudden back, you get like the fear of it comes back sometimes.
Listen, it only happened, it's not really a huge story, but it's a real story. Again, we pulled, just doing a run, stopped into my house, picked up something, threw it in the safe, went on my normal route out. It was about 10 o'clock, maybe 10:15, somewhere in that area. It wasn't late. And turned the corner on Dietz Road from Holt Road. Right after we passed Knoll Road, almost before the house that's on that's there. This it was like a horse, dog, huge. We turned that corner, sped up to 60, and all of a sudden it just like hit the hood and grabbed the front of the car and stopped itself on the car. It was brown, two-tone, like dark and light. It was double, triple the size width I am. Yeah, like rough, big fingers, like with claws. Yeah, but they were like this, not like rounded. That's what it looked like to me. But when you think about describing it, its fur was different. It was the fur was different length. The hair around its head was a little bit longer. The hair around its feet was a little bit longer. Through the middle, it was humongous. It was like wasn't fat at all. It was just like head and shoulders, like a dog. Slash. The rear legs were dog-like, but kind of bigger, Looked like a dog, but kind of bigger, like a lot bigger. It had a big hand, man. It like grabbed the wheel well of the car and stopped itself right on the hood of my car, and looked at me like. And I got a Glock 40, and I had it right in the seat. I've had it. And I pulled the Glock 40 up before by the time we stopped, I was cocked and I was coming out. When I looked direct, and I mean, this was this far from me, within my range. I'm in the car. This thing is that far from outside the car. So we're talking 4 feet. I'm looking straight into the face of this thing. A huge teeth, a big head, hair all over. But when you look down, at the time, when it grabbed, I could see that it's holding on to the car, and I just couldn't, I thought it would slide off. When we slammed on the brakes, it slid, but it didn't. It held right onto the car, like in control. Almost like it's done it before, it's done that, whatever, man. You're not gonna hurt me. On the hood of my car, and I'm like, I'm gonna kill this thing. It had to see my gun coming up. I mean, if it knew what a gun was. And then I thought, it's got it, I can't be the first one to ever see this thing. I'd have to hit it you gotta hit it in the eyeballs. That's the only way. I mean, this thing's huge. The dimensions are so big, its bones have to be, it was as big as a horse, its face, damn near. It looked almost like a horse, so big of a face. But then that's looking at it up close. But looking at it as it ran away, the face didn't, it was huge what I looked at in the window, but when it ran away, compared to how big it was, then it registered in my head how big it was. And she screams, "What do I do?" And I said, "Stop the car." Because she didn't want to stop the car, because she was like, "What?" And I grabbed the gun, cocked the gun, and while I'm grabbing the gun and cocking the gun, it had amber red, and the outside of its eyes looked yellow, almost yellow, amber, reddish looking eyes. And as far as them glowing, it went to the driver's side. I'm in the passenger. As I open the door, it runs around the back of the car on 2 legs, not 1, 2. And its fur on like its foot, the top of its, almost looked like a boot or something. It just looked literally cartoonish. And I watched it go from the hood of the car around, and I'm in the passenger seat. I wasn't driving. To the back of my car, and then on 2 legs, run into the corn. On 2 legs. Threw me off guard. I grabbed my gun, I opened the door. She's screaming, "Get back in the car." And as it ran into the corn, it ducked down. Like an animal, like outside the zoo that knows you can't hurt it. You What are you gonna do? I thought it might have damaged it didn't damage my car or anything, but I thought at the time, how couldn't it have? How could it not damage that car? How could, you know what I'm saying? What the heck was that? And the speed of it. I mean, by the time I lifted and got out of that door, that thing was already on two legs running. I mean, it went so fast and it was so big. And the arms of it were just almost like a cartoon, like you would see a creepy cartoon. And it's almost like I've seen a creepy cartoon, or sometimes it's just like they pulling it out slowly. The way it ran, it's almost like it could have touched the ground. If it would have went a little farther, it touched the ground, and almost like it, you know how you would see an ape or a chimpanzee run with all fours? It looked like it could do it, but it didn't. It ran on twos all the way in there and then went under the corn. And as I'm looking at this corn, it's in the fall, corn's ready to be pulled. The other side was pulled. And think about it, if it was going across the street to the other side, it doubled back. It had to think about, this guy could get a clear shot at me from my back and hop in the car or go if he don't hit it, you know? And that's what I was thinking. Where, you know, I don't know where my other, I know I got one in there, where, you know? It happened so fast. And you be prepared for, she completely never want to be outside, never wanted to, like, it changed her life. It changed my life too. I don't like sleeping. If, you know, if I'm out sleeping or whatever, I got something you gotta have. What are you gonna do? Once you experience that, what, you know, you make sure you have legal guns. Because there's nothing, absolutely nothing you could do. If that thing, you know, if I didn't have a gun, I would have never stopped. Its arms are it's standing 8-9 foot in the air, running away. And its arms are almost touching the ground as it's running on its hind legs. It was nothing that I've ever seen or could even, that is an alpha predator. And at the time it happened so fast, and I've raised a lot of dogs. She screamed so hard, she's just gonna leave me. She get in the car. She was so terrified of that she got mad. She screamed at me half of the way there and half of the way back. It happened so fast and so many emotions happened all at once. I really just reacted to kind of what I felt my instinct inside, which is usually mostly wrong. But I thought if I kill this thing, I could make a lot of money. That's what I thought at the time, man. I could be a million. I got, you know, so many shots in this gun right here. I got another clip in here.
Had you ever heard of this type of thing?
I never even thought of cryptic, none of that. None, until I moved there. And then I had incidents where my dogs would go outside and then they would want to go in. And they were crying, wanting to go in. This is real. Like, if I'm going out in the woods and I'm doing something, I'm gonna be armed. You're not gonna, you know, if you got there's absolutely nothing you could do if two of them could carry 3-4 people. I mean, this thing is huge.
Two years ago, I moved up to Free Soil, Michigan, and I moved into my camper thinking, oh, I'll get a house soon. 3 years later, I'm still in my camper. And my cousin's like, why don't you just stay on my property? There's nobody there, 8 acres, and it's pines, and then in the back of that is a swamp, and then it goes into Manistee National Forest. Very, very beautiful land. And I was probably there about a month, and being very comfortable with that property because it's family property. I grew up there. I mean, we were there every weekend during the summer as a kid. And I had my screen door shut, but my big door open on the camper. And from where my camper sat, straight across was the fire pit, the family fire pit. We all gather around there. And you just have that feeling like something's watching you. And I look over and I'm like, who is that over there by the fire pit? And I'm looking and I'm looking and I go, that's a wolf, but it's standing on its hind legs. Again, probably 6 to 7 foot tall. Not some big, huge, massive thing like I've heard people see. This was just like a wolf standing on his hind legs. But you could see the muscle tone, and this time I was able to see the whole thing because it was daylight. It was just getting toward dusk. And he was gray, just like a gray wolf will look. But you could see the muscles and stuff in the arms and the legs. And the legs don't quite look right on the Dogman. They're just, well, like a dog, you know. And I look, I'm like, what the heck is that? And I'm thinking, okay, here's me, my little dog sitting here in the camper, and it's not gonna take much for this thing to get to me and rip my door off. And there's nothing between us but a screen. So I got up very slowly and never took my eyes off of it. Never. And it was watching me from across the fire pit. There was no fire going or anything. And I slid the screen open, reached out as far as I could, and shut the big door and locked it right away. And then I'm at the window looking like, you know, and then it was gone. It was just gone that quick. I don't know while I was shutting the door if it left or if it was something supernatural. But that night, went to bed kind of nervous, have my gun, have my machete and my axe close, and I hear something like climb up on the camper. And sleeping in a camper, I hear everything, you know, because I'm a woman alone in the woods, so I'm very aware of my surroundings. I know if there's a leaf out of place. And I'm like, this is something big. Is there a bear on my camper? Or, you know, and you think about all these things. You try to rationalize. I always try to rationalize. And then I'm like, that sounds like a man up there, a big man. And I could hear crunch. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is this Dogman. I knew it was. And so I grabbed my hatchet and I'm like this, and I'm like, this thing's coming through the roof, because I really thought it was coming through the roof. And there's a vent above my bed, and I hear this, I'm like, oh, he's sniffing, this is not good. And then walked over to the kitchen, there's a vent there, sniffed there, and I'm listening to this thing, and my little dog is like, she barks at everything too, different dog now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing it's about to go down. It's what I'm telling myself. It's about to go down. It's about to go down. And then it walks back across, and I hear this thump when it hit the ground, you know, like a big man jumping off the top of the camper. And it was really freaky. And then the next morning I got up and I got my coffee, and everybody says, Sue, how do you sleep there? Like, you just, survival mode, you do what you got to do. And so the next morning I got my coffee and sat down in the recliner, and I'm like, what is that on my window? And there's 2 perfect handprints, a lot bigger than mine. They're probably like this. You can see like nails or claws at the top. Then I felt very violated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing was looking in the windows. Well, and I have a cryptid team, so we go out and investigate stuff, and I sent these pictures to these guys, and they're like, there's a nose print at the top of the window as well. And I'm like, what? Where? And they're like, look. I'm like, oh my gosh, there is. It's perfect. Looks like a dog nose print right at the top of the window. So I'm putting this creature at 6 to 7 foot tall because my camper, I have a big 30-foot camper and it's jacked up. So it was tall enough to be able to, have its head at the top of the window. And then that morning or that evening, I'm just going about doing my thing. And that evening, here it came again. And I'm sitting there with the screen door open again, and or the big door open, screen door shut. And here it comes from the fire pit, and it's on all fours, and it's big. I mean, it's, a good size. And it comes kind of trotting like a wolf would or a coyote, and looks me straight in the eye and right out of the end of the driveway. And I'm like, did I just see a coyote? No, that was not the coyote. You know what that was. And I'm, again, trying to rationalize what I saw. And I saw it off and on for about 3 months. After that, it would literally bump the whole camper. A 30-foot camper, that's a lot to move that. And it would bump it in the middle of the night, and I knew it was there, so I said to myself, I'm going to make friends with this thing. If it wanted to eat me, or, it's terrifying me already, but if it wanted to eat me, it already would have. It had several chances. So I started buying rotisserie chickens, and I would put them out at the edge of the property. And then I also went out and put protection all around the property and basically told this thing, you can come here as long as you don't mean any harm. And let's be friends, and let's just get along here. But you have to stop scaring me. And it stopped. But I knew in my heart that thing was still there. And that lasted for about 3 months. And then winter hit and nothing. But I have heard things back in those swamps that would make your hair stand up. I've heard howls, I've seen Bigfoots back there. I've seen, that Dogman, and I believe they're there. I had a family member come up, and they stayed over the weekend. And he said, there's more than one of those things here. He said, because I glanced, and he said, I saw more than one standing on the edge of that property. I said, that's where I put the rotisserie chickens, a couple times a week. And he goes, really? I said, yeah. He said, I saw them, but as soon as I saw them, they were gone. That property of my cousin's, everybody that has stayed there has had something weird happen to them. Everybody. From spirits, seeing glowing things, hearing things. I don't know why they're there, but I don't know. But if I'm in the woods and there's a cryptid there, it's gonna find me. My whole family's like that. Yep, the upper torso. You can see the muscles beneath, and the eyes. They're very perceptive. They're very aware. Yeah, they're the eyes and the upper torso.
That you've seen?
Yellow.
The yellow.
Yep. And I did one night. I did call Mason County Sheriff's Department. I was there. And this is after, I've seen the Dogman and stuff. And I'm doing dishes late at night, because sometimes I work nights. I don't get home till 9 o'clock. And I'm like, did I just see eye reflection out there? And I look, and it's a set of yellow eyes watching me do dishes. And it gives you a very unnerving feeling. And I'm like, okay, it's just my friend out there, he's just checking on me. And then I saw another set, and then I got the strangest feeling, like, fight or flight feeling. And that's when I called Mason County. They came, found no tracks, no nothing. And the two officers were looking at each other, as I'm talking. And I said, what are you guys not telling me? I said, why are you looking at each other like that? And the one officer says, just tell her. And then he told me, he said, well, you're not the only one to claim that you've seen eyes outside your window. He said, it's been happening a lot lately. I'm going to stay in the area for the night. He said, I'll continue to kind of cruise this little block, and if you have any problems, just let me know, or if it comes back, let me know. But yeah.
Have you had any experiences of your own?
Yes.
Can you
Yes. And that's why I have the little girl here. So this happened, I want to say this happened about 4 years ago. I was actually on my way up to do a presentation at a Bigfoot conference in Menominee, Michigan, which is just on the border of Wisconsin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And there is a very nice rest area that sits right on the beach shore of Lake Michigan. It's just outside of Nubian Way, Michigan. And I had her with me. We were making good time, so I thought I will stop there and we'll walk up and down the beach, and I will try to get this little one to go potty. So I parked the car, and to go from the parking lot, you have to go down to one of the gazebos and walk down onto the beach. So first I traveled west, and we probably went about 200 feet west, and she wasn't interested with anything. So then there is a gully cut that runs from underneath the highway to the shore of Lake Michigan. And I thought, I want to go take pictures of that. So I proceeded to walk over to that. And as I was taking pictures of that, I heard this little one sneezing behind me, which is generally her indication that, hey, you need to look at this. So as I started to turn and look down to her, that's when I realized behind me is this trail of footprints that's going down to the lake shore. And I took pictures of it because obviously I wasn't planning on finding any tracks. I didn't have anything to cast a track with. I was on a tight schedule to get to the event. So all I had for reference was my foot in the picture and her paw prints to show the depth of the track and the size of the track. So the track, the footprint that I have a picture of, is over half the size of my foot, and I wear a size 11 women's shoe wide. And this footprint was also pushed into the ground over a ½ inch. I was barely leaving any tracks. This little girl, her footprint is about the size of a quarter. And her footprint easily fit into any one of the digits of this creature's paw print. It went straight down to the water, and then I did not find any tracks coming back up. Now, the concerning part of this is that that track of footprints is only about 100 feet away from that gazebo that takes you down onto the beach. And that rest area is one of the most popular rest areas in the UP because of its location, because of the amount of parking that they have there, the beach access that takes you right down onto a nice sand beach for Lake Michigan, and of course because it's a rest area with a working men and women's bathroom. And this creature had no fear of accessing that pathway, just walking down the beach to the water, didn't care if there was humans out there or not. And I would say this was about 8:30 in the morning.